Hi, everyone. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the following podcast belong solely to the host and its contributors. They are not necessarily the views of our employers, organizations, committees, or other group or individual.
Welcome to another episode of Brewing with BIM. I'm Joey Whitney, and with me is David Campbell. What's up, David?
What's up, Joe?
Notice you got a beer there. What you drinking?
Oh, I am drinking if you guys can see it, a Robert the Bruce from Three Floyds here in Munster, Indiana. So I decided to drive across country during these weird times and visit some family in Indiana and got some good local beer. Actually, you and I have a story about this beer already.
Oh, man. Fun times. Painful mornings.
Yes, these things will get you messed up.
Yeah. Very painful mornings. Well, Robert the Bruce, man, I guess I'll stick with the Scottish theme there. I've got Scottish-born brew dog, but it's brewed in Ohio. Born in Scotland, brewed in Ohio, and I'm drinking their Hazy Jane, which I don't remember if I've had on this podcast. I know I've had their Elvis juice, which is my favorite so far by them. Hazy Jane's great, but that Elvis juice, I don't know if it's the name or not, but I don't know. Something about it.
Yeah.
Can't put my finger on it. It's delicious. Yeah. But I'll drink these nonetheless. I'm happy with that, man. So
I'm a sucker for hazy IPAs, dude. I'm a sucker for hazy IPAs.
I like citrus IPAs more, but so if I get like a grapefruit or an orange, like a blood orange, I think that's probably my preferred. But these are right up there. These are delicious. So, what makes a hazy IPA, by the way?
I'm actually not sure. What is it?
Man,
we know, right? We have a podcast about beer, and you think that one of us
is the hazy part that it's clouded clarity for the IPA generation. So it's cloudy.
Can be largely a result of dry hopping, a method of adding hops. Oh no.
This one doesn't have as much fruit flavors as it makes out to have. It doesn't have. I don't get the pineapple like it's saying, or the mango. I definitely get some hints of lime. But hey, it's delicious nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to figure that out. I'm so speaking of, while we're on this topic of brewing and beer and whatnot, I am very close to getting my stuff set up now. I've had a sequence of projects leading up to this that have just been stalling me. So as you know, I redid my deck and now I've built my kids a playground. I'm going to take a 2 or 3 week reprieve, and then we're going to do our remodel the kitchen. Mm-hmm. But before I get started on that, that's where I'm going to set up my brew set. So after this weekend, probably starting next weekend, I'll be ready to roll.
All right, man. I mean, I'm going to be in Indiana for a month, so I'm going to have to put my brew on hold for a little while. But as soon as I get back, I get back, yeah, there you go. We could take turns. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
So I've reading here a little bit about hazy IPAs. It can come from using different yeast strains to ferment the beer, a medium to low flocculating yeast strain. Another way to create
that's a $5 word, man.
Boom. They tend to stay in suspension within the liquid rather than aggregate into large masses and either drop out or rise to the surface. So
okay, that makes sense. So you get the particles in your beer. Like I've had hazy beers before, but the sediment always filters down. So this just sticks.
It just floats.
Yeah.
Yep. And then through another way to create haze is through high rates of dry hopping.
All right. Okay. So it's almost like it's emulsified in the beer itself. Like it's like mixed in there. All right.
That's pretty cool.
That's good to know, man. I probably won't be brewing a hazy IPA for quite some time, but
the more you know.
The more I know, man. The more I know. Yeah, I'm actually I'm actually on the fence about what I'm going to brew for the first time, so I'll have to figure that out. Next week I'll probably build my setup, and then the week after that,
Mine
if
was a
not
porter.
middle, porter.
Mine was a porter. I can't, honestly, I just went with a chocolate vanilla bean porter. I
Yeah.
used cocoa nibs and vanilla beans, and honestly, I don't know. It actually turned out really, really good. So
I,
that was
I'm off the porter bandwagon, man. I used to do like double chocolate stouts and oatmeal
hmm
stouts and all that stuff, like very very thick hearty beers. And now I can't do it, man. I need something a little. I'm such a wimp now, but I need something a little fruitier in flavor. And it all started with
Oh, yeah, no, I'm kidding, dude. I'm right there with you, honestly. I can only drink a couple of these heavier beers, and by the time I'm like 2 or 3 into it, I'm like, and we're done. But if you give me a good like hazy IPA, or let's even say a sour, Dave is down for
oh
sours.
yeah, give me a lambic or a sour, I'm good.
Oh yeah.
But did you ever drink Shiner?
Yeah,
Shiner,
Shiner
Shinerbach,
Brock?
yeah.
Yeah, dude.
So it's brewed in Texas, and in Texas, North Texas, we had a few, artisanal breweries. This is 10 years ago. There were a few of them. I think Roar and Sons was probably the big one. Deep Ellum Brewery. Like there were a few out there, but everybody flocked to Shiner. It was like that was the premium beer. Like if you were going to
Yeah.
the bar, everybody would drink Miller Lite, PBR, but if you had money, you were drinking a Shiner.
Yeah.
Shiner does these seasonal beers, and they did this Ruby Red Grapefruit. And ever since then, man, it was ginger and grapefruit. Ever
Oh
since then,
yeah?
I was hooked on it. I mean, heck, man, it was 100+ degrees during the summers in Texas, every day, man, without
Yeah.
fail, 100+ degrees. Um, you can't drink something heavy. Like
Nope.
you either need some piss water beer or American
Oh
Pilsner,
yeah.
or you need something that's got a little fruit to it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, dude. So, me and my buddies used to go down and watch the Indy 500 or the Brickyard. Uh, you know,
So when you're in Oregon, you're a hippie. When you're here, you're a redneck. I love it, man.
yeah, dude. Well, you learn real quick that the heavier beers, just don't work out. A lot of them would drink Mike's Hard Lemonade, but I always like the Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy or the Lemon Shandy. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, a
that's good.
good light shandy beer. Yeah, dude, you can drink that all day, and they're not gonna get you. I mean, they're gonna get you a little buzzed, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, you should definitely. Well, so when you get back to Oregon, there's this group of breweries called Cascade Brewery, and
mm-hmm.
they've got multiple locations, and they each brew different stuff. The Raccoon Lodge, it's on the other side of town. It's in Beaverton, so you're in Sandy. It's across
Yep,
town, across the river. Um, and you might be able to find this somewhere else. I just know they have it. They have like cranberry, lambics and stuff like that,
yeah,
like Thanksgiving, like fruit beers that
yeah.
are just like
That
they're
sounds
phenomenal. Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, they're great, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was spoiled earlier on with like Delirium Tremens and a bunch of Trappist breweries. I love that style. And then all of a sudden, I moved to the Northwest and it just shredded my taste buds with IPAs.
Oh
So now
yeah.
it's IPAs and sours, man. That's all I can really tolerate, man.
Yeah. Dude,
Every now and then.
I walk into like Walmart and I went to the local liquor store, and I was kind of curious about what craft beer they would have. And you see a very small section of craft beer and you see like Elysian Space Dust and I'm like, oh yeah. Like,
Made their way out there. I love it, man.
yeah, dude, it's pretty awesome. They make some good stuff, but then I'm quick to I'm not quick. You'll scout it and see kind of what's out there, but at the same time, then I'm looking over like, oh man, oh. Those Yinglings are looking kind of nice, especially at like what, 13, $14. Like,
Oh
let's
man,
go.
yeah, you can't beat the price.
No.
I'm a, like there's a time and a place for good beer. We're all beer snobs, but there's a time and a place for good beer, and then there's a time and a place for like just relax and kick back and drink some beer, like
Yep.
some piss water
PBRs.
beer as it's called or whatever. It goes down like water. You
Hey.
just
Yeah,
sour
dude.
water, drink it.
Yep.
It's fine. It's not screwing me up. I can drink like four of them and and be completely fine, hang out, and it's just it's a social occasion, especially when the weather's warm, man.
Yep.
I don't know
Oh
where
yeah,
it's at where
dude.
you guys are, but it's been like
Oh,
95,
dude, it's so hot
85,
and
just
humid. The
yeah.
humidity out here. I forgot about it. Dude, so legit though, I forgot how much sun is out here. Like in the Northwest, we don't really think much about sunblock too much, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a little bit, but no. And it's just not humid. You come to Indiana and it's like the humidity is like you walk into a rainforest. Like it's hard to breathe. It's like
Just sticks to you, man.
thick, yeah. And it's
Atlanta,
insane.
Georgia humidity, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
we're all outside the other day, you know, we're thinking we're cool at a birthday party, you know, cookout kind of thing. And like, oh, this is great. Next thing I know, I'm looking at my arms, like my face is on fire and my stuff is burnt. Like I was like, wow. I didn't even think I was out that long.
Man, I set up a little splash pad for my kids, and I don't even think he was out there that long. My little man, we sprayed. I sprayed some, some of the aerosol
Like the copper tone stuff.
sunblock. Yeah,
Yeah.
sunblock on him. Which sprayed stuff isn't very effective. It needs to be absorbing your skin, give you a layer of protection. But um, I don't know. It must have been like 40 minutes later. I look at him
Yeah.
and he's like glowing red. I'm like, oh shit! Like, let's go inside, buddy.
Yeah. Let's
Let's
go
get you out
chill
of the
out.
sun. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's get you out of the sun, man. But I've been working out in the sun for the past like 2 weeks. So I've got like this nice like different. Look at that, man.
Yeah,
I'm
that farmer's tan, dude.
practically glowing
That's
up here.
legit.
But
That is the farmer's tan, man. I
yeah,
like
man.
it.
Yeah, that's what 2 weeks of sun will do for you, man. Just
Hmm.
that deck. Oh my gosh, man. Uh, like I'm very good conceptually. Like I can think, plan through, and act on it. But then I run into poor craftsmanship that happened before,
Yep.
and it's like shit. Now I gotta like undo this or redo that.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, man. We were talking about scan technology last episode, and it's like if I actually like went in there and scanned this, and like I don't know, man. Like there was a way for me to like just tell how
Look at
bad this.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like let me do like a density analysis on this rotted structure here. But
That's awesome.
and then now I built this playground, and my whole thought was like, oh, it'll probably cost me the same amount as buying one of the kits, but I'm
Yeah.
going to use better lumber. It's going to be like, instead of like, just 2x4s all the way through for structure, it's like 4x4s and 3x4 landscape timbers. It's like it's heavy duty, man. It's
Yeah.
damn near earthquake proof or hurricane proof. Um, like 6-inch lag bolts going all the way. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty serious. Anyways, for like the same price, I could have bought a kit. I'm like
Yeah.
$1,200 into this thing, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, it came out pretty damn good. It came out almost as good as a kit. Almost as that perfect. Like
Yeah.
uh, you know, canned, if you will, look. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like I know this thing is good. But the thing is, I didn't draft it up first. And had I drafted it first and like made my cut sheets and all that stuff, dude, I would have saved like I don't know, 10 hours, man, at least back and forth and all that stuff.
Dude,
Just
that's what
gotta,
I get every time, every project I do. I'm like, I should draw this. Nah, let's just do it. Let's do it. I got it in my head. Let's go for it. And then when I get to many different things, I'm like, shit, I should have just drawn this.
yeah.
I should have drawn it.
Like even in AutoCAD, like I probably could have, just gone through basic stuff in AutoCAD and like literally just because, detailing Revit's not fun, but I could
Yeah.
have just done this in AutoCAD and it would have taken me like 2 hours, 2 hours
Yeah.
to like detail every board and get a cut sheet. Not a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
Done. But nope, that 2 hours cost me 10. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
anyways, man, like I was just thinking, I was like, man, I have like a hard time, like I can conceptualize stuff, but I have a hard time like, adequately preparing myself for that, the task at hand. And you've seen me remodel my previous house, and I remodeled my house before that.
Yeah.
Pretty much gut and redo, but um, kind of piss poor idea on how long things take. Got to factor in like another third of the time that you budgeted
Yeah.
just to do rework from the other person. And then the wife comes down with 6 million change orders. You know, I would like it better if you put that on that side. And if you, you think you
Oh
could
yeah.
raise the roof an extra 6
Yep.
inches?
Oh yeah. Like,
Oh
hey,
man.
instead of your fishing and tackle stuff here, do you think we could actually just put more storage and then you could actually like put your fishing and tackle stuff over here? And I was like, well, that completely changes everything I had in my mind. I can't just redraw like part of it that I'm like trying to figure out because we're redoing the garage and I've tried redoing this several times and figuring out where I can have like my fishing stuff and where she can have her craft stuff, like, and then the storage for all the different seasons, and then of course her storage for her stuff that she has before, and then camping. And it's been interesting, man. I'm like, all right, we're going through iteration like 12 now. Okay.
Do you have an attic?
No, yeah, actually we do. Yeah, yeah. Very
Do you
small
use
one.
your attic? Oh, it's
No,
small.
no.
I
Yeah, I mean, definitely put stuff up there if I laid some plywood up there, I think. That might be something.
I think we
I'm
got
sure.
plywood laid on half of our attic, but it doesn't have the pole string, stairs down like my last
Yeah.
house. So it's just inconvenient to use. But like now that I'm like, man, I really want to free up my garage. My garage is like, I got a surface planer, thickness planer. I've got a chop saw. I've got a drill press, and I've got automotive tools and a rolling toolbox. And then I've got like um, miscellaneous tools off to the side of that, levels, clamps, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but the bulk of my garage is taken up by totes of just like nothing but toys. Thousands of dollars of toys that my kids, I swear to God, will never touch again, but they won't let me get rid of.
Oh no. No, those for me go to like Goodwill. I'm like, hey kids, every once in a while I'm just like, hey kids, we're gonna go ahead and clean your rooms and get rid of the toys that you guys don't play with. We're gonna give these to another child to play with because this is ridiculous. But no, I have trees and Easter and Christmas decorations and Halloween and
I got
all
all
of
that
like
too, but it's like
stoves.
6 totes, man. It's not that much for me. Like holiday
That's a
stuff. It's not like
lot.
I've
Six
got
totes?
yeah, I got like 6 totes of that stuff. But then I've got
That's a
like
lot.
20 totes of just random kid crap. And my wife's books. My wife is like an avid book collector, although she
Oh.
hasn't read a paper book in like 10 years. She reads everything on her phone. She's got, the Kindle app, and
Yeah.
that's all she reads. She reads it on her phone. Meanwhile, me, I've got a little library over here. I've got books everywhere that I'm reading. And
Yeah.
I've got maybe like 1 or 2 totes full of books. She's got like 6 totes, no joke. And one of her totes is like collectible first editions, but they're not
Yeah.
like famous first editions.
Oh.
They're like books. It's like, are you sure you want this? Oh yeah, yeah, it's first edition. No, no, you don't want this. Trust me. If it's worth anything, sell it. Come on now.
Yep, yep.
But
I got these freaking TY Beanie Babies, so I ended up
oh
buying
my
these,
god,
dude.
I've
Yeah.
got I've got a tote of those too if you
Do
want
you
it.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my wife has them from when she was a kid.
I have these TY Beanie Babies. I have 3 of them in plastic containers because they were the mistake ones, and
Those are
people are.
worth those were worth money. Yeah,
I know, yeah. Actually, they're worth money, but I'm just like, I don't know what to do with them.
yeah.
So I just kind of set them on the shelf because like I don't want people to play with them, and I don't really know what to do because I don't know when the right time to sell it is. So I'll just sit on it
I
for a little
think
while
the
longer.
right time to sell it is whenever you can find somebody to buy it. Like
That
that
is
that to me,
definitely true. Yeah,
it's
that's
like
true.
75 cents. I don't care. Take it, man. Just take it, dude. It's yours.
Why?
I would have a garage sale and just put the whole dang tote out there for $10 and get what you get, man. Take it, man. Just take it. Look, some are worth
Oh
money,
no,
some are
yeah.
not. Just take
Take it
it.
and run. Take it and run.
Yeah.
Oh
I
God.
just I dread the day we move again because we got so much shit.
Oh yeah.
I'm not throwing away any of my totes though. When we moved cross country, I kept all my totes. They're taking up a lot of space in my shed, but it's like, you know what? It's worth it than spending, $800 on totes again.
Yeah.
Freaking, I've probably got like, 120 totes probably.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
freaking totes.
Wow. Dang, dude.
But it's like, oh shit. At least if we do this, we'll still have the totes to go from. The wife's already talking about. I know we're way off topic. We haven't even gotten to the meat of what we were going to talk about here today.
Right? We haven't even gotten to the
We
actual
haven't even
part of our
introduced the
podcast yet.
topic, man. Shit, it's 20 minutes. Yes, whatever. I ain't seen you in like, I don't know, a week.
Yeah.
So, uh, but the wife's talking about moving again. She's like, well, 5 years from now, we should probably look at getting some land. And I'm like, oh my God,
What?
you know what it's going to take to pack this up? We just burn it down?
Dude,
Come on, man.
that's one of the reasons that's spurring our thought about moving right now is, I love the Pacific Northwest, but the cost of living is ridiculous. It's high. And you try to buy like a house with land and it costs a lot of money.
Gosh,
And
dude,
even
you got to be a
buying
millionaire.
land.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you have to be a millionaire. And to buy land right now, Joey, I drove past a sign. It was Berkshire Hathaway and Sandy. And I think it was like 4 acres for undeveloped land, $300,000.
Oh,
Like I can't afford that. I can't even put a house on that.
yeah.
I got 10 grand for a house. We got about $50,000. Let's just put a tiny house in there somewhere and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, with 4 kids,
Yeah, right.
3 dogs, a
Yeah.
million cats.
Everybody's getting yurts. Let's go.
Oh, man. Well, the weather's mild enough. It should be all right. Oh man, yeah,
Let's go.
yeah. We wanted some land too, but we were fortunate with our property in Portland. We ended up one street outside the city limits, so we were in a different county, so our taxes were like nothing, like 2 grand. And then on top of that, yeah, it's
It's the
beautiful.
Midwest. I mean, you think about that. Like the taxes that I don't know what you're paying now, but the taxes that I was paying in Indiana were not anywhere close to that.
Like lower or over?
Lower. Yeah. Oh,
More
yeah.
than 2 grand?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's nice. So I live in Pittsburgh, just north of Pittsburgh now. If I was about 5, 10 minutes, probably about 5 minutes south in Allegheny County, the taxes would probably be like, I don't know, 10, 12 grand. But because I'm in Butler County, it's like, I don't know, like 3 grand maybe. Yeah, it's insane. Like,
Wow.
and it's not the county tax or anything like that. It's the school taxes are just insane here. Okay?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I'm like,
That's
your school's not that
crazy, dude.
good. Anyways,
Right. Like, is your school really that good?
it's really not, man. It's really not.
But anyway, so today's episode
It's brought to you by beer.
brought to you by beer. Yeah,
Oh,
right.
shit.
Oh man. So what are we going to talk about today, Joey? Do you want to introduce it?
No, man, go right ahead, bud.
All right. So the topic that we had talked about this week, and I really thought it would be good to talk about, is actually like constructability, right? And getting people involved a little bit sooner in the process. So as we all know, you've been around the block with BIM, and translating that data to construction can be kind of hard sometimes, right? And making sure that the designers, the draftsmen, draftswoman, what have you, have enough knowledge on how this is actually going to be built to detail it correctly so that the general contractor or subcontractor, what have you, can take the drawings and run, right? So they don't have to do rework. But unfortunately, we don't have that, right? There's a gap. There's a big gap. There's a lot of lack of training and kind of knowledge. In some ways, I'm not going to say all over, but we've seen a pretty large gap there that needs to be bridged. And Joey and I were talking about it earlier this week and kind of looking at different softwares and different things that we can kind of use. And I was actually on a phone call this week with a very passionate individual who happens to be, also in the construction industry. And we were talking about actually BIM 360, right? And everybody's like, "Oh, Dave, you're on BIM 360 again." I know. But so here's the thing. We have, BIM 360 design, and maybe a BIM 360 document management seat is fairly cheap, right? Um, you think about giving a contractor, general contractor, subcontractor, fabricator, what have you, access earlier in your timeline of that design. Give them access into document management and the capability to get into the model, get into these drawings, and start creating issues, right? Start creating comments, markups, placing markups, attaching images, specs, anything to help with the knowledge gap, right? Bridging that knowledge gap, because that's really what we want to do. We want to bridge that gap and find the way to move forward together. And I really think that way, as I'm kind of saying here, is involving coordination kind of sooner, right? Get everybody involved, get somebody that seat so they can get in and make it part of the timeline of your project, make it part of the contract. Hey, this is when we want you to get involved and start looking at these drawings, looking at these details. So, and in sense, people are going to say that's a lot of time that I got to spend up front trying to teach people how to detail. Man, is this really going to be worth it? If you think about it, the amount of rework, the amount of change orders that happen on some of these jobs can be easily alleviated by getting the right person involved in the process sooner. And even if they're just watching it, right? They don't have to. I mean, when they see that things have evolved to where they can adjust, or they can actually say, okay, we're getting a little off track here, this is where it needs to go, or hey, you're just missing this and this. I think that both sides are gaining from that, right? Not just the contractor, subcontractor, GC, what have you, but also the design side of themselves, because at that point you're sharing that knowledge, right? And again, helping to avoid rework downstream.
Yeah. So this is a conversation, one I've had recently with both parties. I've had this conversation with the engineering staff,
Mm-hmm.
here in the Midwest. I say here in the Midwest, in the Midwest. Technically, I'm in Appalachia. Uh, But and then again, I just had this conversation just yesterday, and actually part of it and bleeding into today, from a connection that's in Portland on the electrical contractor side. So their big thing is, um, we'll start from the contract, from the actual contractor, the installer side, the field guy side. Um, unknowledgeable people are modeling but don't know how things should be built, like the constructability aspect.
Yep.
It then falls to field personnel to say, no, this doesn't work like this. And then you and I talk about prefabrication a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You can't prefabricate off of a non-constructible model. It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. It's not going to happen. Yeah, you're going to have to rip it all apart and rebuild it, essentially. So how do you mitigate this issue? Well, one, you could, take the, lengthy time to educate the modelers as to how this needs to be detailed, how your routing preferences need to be set up. Like in Revit, you have the template that you can set up. You can set up your routing preferences. You also know, clearances and where you can put this, where you can't put that, all that sort of stuff. That's not built in the template. In Fabrication CAD MEP, we can write scripts to kind of tell things, where they need to go and fix things. Revit's a little harder to think about in that respect. I guess that maybe if you got in a Dynamo, you could do some stuff, code compliance, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But so the field team is spending twice as long when they could have just drawn it out, freehanded it out themselves and said, actually, this is the way it needs to be set up, and this is what you need to go back and put in your models. So,
well, and I think you're right there on the other side of that coin with the field personnel at that point have to learn how to utilize that design software, like Revit in this case, Fabrication Academy P, they have to learn how to, which a lot of times that's fine. They want to learn how to draft it, but at the same time, then they're spending more time and more money teaching people how to use this
But
program so they can try to rework it.
but that's not their job. Their job is to install it.
Yep.
So they're doing two jobs.
Yep.
They're one having to do the job, redo the job of the modeler, but two having to install and make sure that everything's installed the way that it should be per code and done to that. So the model essentially is unusable, and it means nothing during coordination if you're changing it after the fact, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So what's the point?
Yep.
So
really, it's all about bridging that gap, dude. That's it.
it's communication, right?
It is communication. Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about BIM 360 because this is what we're familiar with, but it's so much easier to do this stuff in something like BIM 360 or PlanGrid or whatever tool you're using,
Whatever.
because as soon as the modeler uploads their designs, right, over time this modeler is going to learn what can and can't be done.
Yep.
But today they're green, right? That's just a fact of life. It's going to happen. People come, people go. You get new people. They don't know how you work. They don't know the way things are supposed to be.
Yep.
That's fine. And you can't take 40 hours a week and educate them on top of your 40-hour-a-week job. It just doesn't fit into the schedule. So what do? You look at a communication tool, a collaboration tool that allows you to look at the designs that they are putting out as they're doing it and just simply make some markups, whether it's Bluebeam Studio, BIM 360, however you're doing it. They upload a file, and then you just come through and mark it up and say, no, here's why, here's why, here's why, here's why. And then hopefully the next time or the next 3 times from now, they're looking at like, oh, okay, never mind. I realize I can't do it that way. Yep. So you're in a sense training them just by using a collaborative platform that has built-in communication tools and that sort of stuff. And if they ever say, well, why can't I do it like this? Well, do you remember 3 projects ago when we were working with so-and-so on this data center? Well, that's why you can't do that. Oh, that makes sense. Like, I don't know. It becomes more tangible if you have an example that you can build off of, that sort of stuff. Now, on the other side of that, the engineers, the designers, I work with those guys quite a bit as well. And not so much the engineers, but the designers, right? Like, especially if they're green. I've worked with former architect, they weren't architects, but they worked for an architect firm that somehow ended up at a mechanical contractor. Well, if they're doing the design work at a mechanical contractor, they don't know how this stuff's supposed to be set up. Well, that said, somebody told them, hey, look, this is the way we do it. We're using this system. This is the engineers, gave me. This is the way we're modeling it.
Yep.
So I understand that side of it too, but still, it's got to boil down to communication in my mind. Like, you've got to communicate back to them so that they know. But at the same time, maybe they're designing it in a certain way, and maybe it's a limitation of the program, which I've seen a lot. A limitation of the program is why they design something a certain way. And with that, it just kind of is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. But I mean, giving them the capability to have those conversations early in the process or earlier in the process is only going to be beneficial. I mean, because at that point in time, you can share that field knowledge with the engineering knowledge, and they can come to a compromise, that middle ground, right? And say, okay, actually, it's funny, but my background was with a design build firm, and a lot of times I would go to a mechanical engineer or an architect and for what I was drafting, and they would tell me how to detail certain things certain ways, and that's what I was doing. And then you'd get the project manager, the supervisor would come up and ask, okay, why are we doing it this way? Well, I'm doing it this way because that's the way the engineer specified it. But at that point, they have to go to the engineer or the architect and say, okay, why did we do it this way? Can we do it this way? And I've seen it done through paper, right? And generally at that point in time, it's already at least a few days old, and they're probably building off portions of it, right? They're already starting to do things, and the PM's coming up like, hey, so I don't like this. We gotta do this fast, and then you're rushing to try and rework and get those changes printed out so they can push it out to the field. And a lot of these guys are honestly already looking at it, and the PM's going, no, we're going to build it like this, but I got to go talk, and then we're going to, get it detailed like this, so then we can build it like that. Okay.
Man, yeah, it's a fun process, man. Another thing is I was chatting with an engineer recently, and they had an interesting perspective, right? So, how do you make an engineer not just a designer, right? So it seems like the where we're going, models are being produced by lots of third-party sources, maybe not detailed the way they should be or anything like that. But in the end, um, you know, they're just paying for it, and then the field team is saying, "Oh, actually, let's change this, change this, change this," because it's being installed. So the engineers stamp the first drawing, but after that, everything is in somebody else's hand.
Yep.
How does the engineer get to stay involved longer to ensure that it's done properly? Because I mean, you got to do system load calculations, like all this stuff is important. Um, Not so much just routing preference. Where can I make this fit?
Yeah.
And then the other part of that is coordination. Like, so an engineer wants to be involved through coordination, so that when you make a change, they can their iteration
Yep.
of the model that they stamped the first time. You're not just going back and saying, okay, well, we'll change this. You gave us the Revit model. We'll just tweak this to make fit our needs.
Yep.
No, 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 no. It needs to go back to the engineer to make sure that that fits, and then they can restamp if need be and recertify. And then one last thing on that. So as engineers and field teams kind of work more on projects earlier, like we start talking about IPD type projects, that sort of stuff, concurrent engineering, you know, kind of defining the liabilities and making sure who's responsible for what, as well as figuring out that detailing process earlier on, because that's really what concurrent engineering is the field teams involved with the subcontractors involved with the engineer to say, hey, look, Mr. Engineer, you're designing this system, but we're going to install it this way. This is the way we're going to do it, and we need to detail this because of these routing preferences, and there's this coordination aspect that we have to figure out. And it's just easier if we do this. And the engineer's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Well, the engineer stamps that drawing. Are they done? Are they done from there? How do they get to stay involved longer? I guess that was the biggest question that got approached to me by an engineer when we were chatting about concurrent engineering and IPD projects. Is how they don't want to just. One, they want to speed up the process for their client, right? That's their whole thing, is we want to make it efficient for our client, speed it up. But two, we want to make sure that our standards are still in place and that it's being installed at, as is. And that's when we started chatting about like scan software, where you can do scan verification. Because verification is, in my mind, probably the biggest part. If you can verify that it's to the engineer's specs and standards, that's a pretty good thing.
That is a very good thing, honestly. I mean, you think about connecting the entire process together, and keeping them, I want to say, involved throughout, of course, the design process, but into handover and the construction process. And as that develops, scans, verification software are only going to help. I really want to think that the engineers would feel better at that point, looking at the the verification data and saying, okay, well, these are my tolerances and everything in this is up to my tolerance. Cool.
That would be an interesting aspect to include from an engineer standpoint, is if they could figure out a way to scan after installation to make sure, for verification. Like, I think that'd be.
Because right now, a lot of I would think the engineering would, of course, continue, not really continue, but their monitoring, I guess, of it would continue into the punch walking phase, right? The QA QC.
Yeah, they're using the Procores, the BIM 360s, the PlanGrids, whatever, and they're involved in that side of stuff, tracking it. But are you catching everything? Are you reviewing every?
That's the thing.
No, you're not, man.
How often are you doing this? How often are you going on those walks? And do you think that your eye is going to catch every single thing in there? And there's so many distractions going on a construction site. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a construction site, right? They are chaotic. I mean, they're beautiful, but they are chaotic at times. I mean, they really are.
I agree with you, man. I actually find beauty in a construction site. I don't know what it is. There is one part of a construction site that I do not find beautiful, and that is the poor surveyor that's pounding hubs and
Oh, I thought you were going to say
brick.
the porta johns outside. I was like, yeah, I have to agree with that. Those are never beautiful, but
Oh
you
man,
just do what you got to do.
this thing and pumped for 3 days. And Julio, man, he took
John's
a bath.
numbers in that wall. This person has very
Oh
artistic. They have a lot of time on their hands.
yeah, come on, guys. Oh man, I've been in some bad porta johns, man. But
Oh yeah.
oh,
Oh
oh man, I won't go any more on the porta johns.
yeah, yeah.
But no, it was pounding hubs, man. It's I don't remember what I think it was. I don't remember what it was. Some retail. Maybe it was a new Walmart or something like that. It was in North Dallas. I was setting some hubs. Um, they had laid one concrete pad. We were about to do another. Just pounding out some hubs, and on the because it wasn't just a Walmart. It was a whole retail like section. Like they built a like a
Like an
monstrosity
outlet mall
complex.
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, they had a Walmart as the anchor, and then there was the outlet mall stores off to the
Oh
side
yeah,
that
yep.
the Verizons, the Starbucks, all that sort of stuff,
Hmm.
Jimmy John's, whatnot. So while this was this pad was already built up here, we were pounding hubs over here, but over here on the other side, they were still doing some kind of they were still excavating, doing a little machine
Hmm.
control. Um, Well, that damn tractor kept coming by me, man, and it is just belting out diesel fumes. And I'm
Oh
sitting there,
man.
I think it was like 105 degrees out. I'm pounding hubs in Texas red freaking clay, man,
Yeah.
breathing diesel fumes all freaking day. And I'm just like, all right, I do not envy this. This is, stick me back out on a 300-acre site or something where I don't have to be around. This is too much for me, man. Yeah, it was pretty brutal. But
Yeah.
after a few weeks of that, I'd like to say you get used to it, but you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't, man. I was on that job for a little bit, but it's
Yeah.
fun times, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Time.
I actually I got quite used to that diesel kind of fumes too. I actually I've grown used to it though. I like the diesel fumes. I I don't know why. I like the smell of diesel. I like the smell of like the burnt gunpowder or CLP, like the gun oil.
Yeah. Well, I like burnt gunpowder. I like sulfur. I mean, there's like interesting smells,
Yep, yep, yep.
but
When I was in
I don't.
Afghanistan, that's what I did was operated heavy equipment. And we would operate all the graders, dozers, and loaders, and you have to have water truck. You drive the water truck out there, spraying water just to keep all the dirt down so you could
Oh my
see.
gosh, you just gave me like an image of shit in the army now with Polly Shore, man. Like, oh man, I freaking love that movie.
Hmm.
Polly Shore is underrated, damn it.
He is. Gosh,
Oh
that
man,
son-in-law where he jumped in the combine.
yeah, Crawl, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch Goofy movie? Please tell me you watched Goofy movie.
Of course I watched Goofy movie.
All right, man. So my daughter just
You
watched
said
Goofy
that
movie.
to me the other day when we were driving.
Oh man, shit. You have to watch Goofy movie.
It is
Every kid
awesome.
our
Yeah.
generation has to watch.
Yeah.
Say kid. Every person our generation has to watch Goofy
Yep.
movie. Yep. So my daughter, who's 7, just we have Disney Plus, all that fun stuff, which has been a godsend during COVID. Um, my daughter always says, "Hi, Dad," and I'm like, "Hi, Dad, soup." Like, because he talks about "Hi, Dad, soup." They're stuck in the car with Bigfoot on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I can quote this whole damn movie. But she's like, "Well, why do you keep saying that?" I'm like, "Goofy movie." So anyway, she watched it. She'd watched it when she was younger, but she watched it again. She watched the second one just like 2 days ago, and the whole time this is going on, Bobby, the guy that's like, Cheddar
Cheddar
Wizard,
Wizard.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Comes it in
Pauly
his
Shore,
mouth.
man. It's
Yeah.
Pauly Shore, man.
Yeah.
Like
That's so.
Yeah, I just like started thinking about Pauly Shore. Like, man, I miss Pauly Shore movies.
Yep.
Like, were they family friendly? Can I watch those with my kids? Probably not.
Not
But
family friendly.
yeah.
No. Oh gosh, what was that one with him and Brendan Fraser? Iceman or
Oh,
he was a caveman.
um,
Gosh, what was it?
Encino Man.
Encino Man. Yeah,
Yeah,
dude. That was my shit. Encino Man.
yeah, that was good, man. Yeah, I like that one. Oh man, damn it.
Anyways,
Yeah,
yeah, another tangent.
nice man. Pauly Shore tangent, man.
Polly
Only
Shore
on the
tangent. Love
Brewing
it.
with BIM pop. We need sound effects, man.
We do. We
Yeah,
do. We do.
we need
We
a
need
button
like beer
that says
pouring sound
"General Manager."
effects.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. I can't even make a beer sound effect. Damn it. And this is literally my last beer.
Mm. Yeah, this is my last one as well. Although
And,
it's still full, so I'm all right.
yeah, I'm about 3/4 the way. We've got some bourbon over there and some smidge of scotch still.
Yeah.
But anyways, man, sorry, dude. Tangent. Where were we? Training, communication. Like in an ideal situation, everybody you train knows their perfect job, but that's just not the way things work. Um, I've worked with a lot of contractors from the union halls and all that sort of stuff. Union halls do a great job of teaching people the way that they need to do stuff. Unfortunately, from what I've seen, not very many of them become drafters. They might be BIM coordinators or something like that, but they're not the ones doing the drafting work. So at the end of the day, they're still having to redo somebody else's work and train somebody else because those guys are fresh out of college.
Yep.
Or and not knocking fresh out of college people, college
No, I mean
grad.
it is what it is. Yeah,
You don't
you're
know
at
what you
that
don't know.
point in time. No, yeah.
Like I guarantee you, man, if I got back into production, I wouldn't know shit. I wouldn't
Nope.
know. Like you would probably have to
I
retrain me, man.
Yeah,
Really
I mean,
is.
I know a little bit, but at the same time, production is so much different because
Okay.
you're thinking different ways, and then each project is different. It would take some training. It would.
Yeah, yeah. But that said, I think that we're going to solve this problem right now. The answer is communication.
It
The
is.
answer is a workflow that incorporates their latest designs being uploaded to the field team. Maybe it's a designated personnel. Maybe it's a reviewer on the, like a senior drafter or senior designer or something like that, who is saying, actually, no, you can't do this, and here's why. Um, because over time, that person's going to end up training. That's what that
Yes.
is. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And that's what has to happen. They have to keep sharing that knowledge, passing that knowledge, and
Yeah.
continue to bridge that gap. But I mean,
I,
we're just not seeing it yet. I mean, enough of it yet.
I've run into many people that are like, they're of the mind that's, oh, we've got to get our field person, like, Johnny out in the field, like this dude installs ductwork like nobody's business. He knows how everything's supposed to do. Like,
Yep.
he knows, the best way to cut it to
Train them how
save
to draft.
the same cost. Well, let's train them how to draft. And it's like, well, sometimes that works. It actually works quite a bit, but
Yep.
a lot of times it doesn't work too, though. It's
Then you got to teach them Dynamo. Teach them
uh,
Dynamo too. Stuff gets real
but
cool.
But old Johnny there, he's he's great at installing the duct, but you tell him to model the duct, he is so inefficient. Like you could have actually had, college graduate or somebody who went to a technical school or somebody who just picked up Revit, whatever it is, do the dang thing for him with his guidance in half the time. And Johnny's still doing his, normal, 40, 60 hour a week installing because Johnny is a phenomenal installer. He's not a great drafter.
Yep. But that's also where I think those design build firms have a leg up in that instance, in terms of they have that internally. I mean, in some ways, if they have
You
those.
think so, but more often than not, they're both siloed teams. So when I talk to a design build firm, they're like, yeah, we've got design build. Well, you do. Okay. And then you chat with them. It's like, well, actually, our designers are either outsourced, which is a big lie. You can't put design build if you're outsourcing your design. It just bothers me.
No, you're build specking, man. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, we've got a contract with an architect who does all of our designs, or a drafter who does all our
Oh,
designs for us. Come on now. But that happens a lot,
yeah.
especially with firms that are really big. So I do a lot with like pole barn companies, stuff like that, and they'll be like, "Yeah, we're design build." It's like, well, you outsource all of your design. You're not really design build. But anyways,
Yep.
not picking on anybody. Um, but the other side of that though is if you are design build, unless you're like one of the big guys, well, even if you are one of the big guys, your teams are segregated. They're designers that know the software, but they don't necessarily know the constructability aspect. So one, it goes through constructability, then it goes through value engineering, and then it goes through coordination.
Yep.
And then by the time it makes it back through that, back to that model, it's probably been revised like 4 times, and
Yep.
that that guy, he's getting the same damn, on the job education as the guy in a non-design build firm because he didn't know
Hmm.
what to do from the beginning. I
Yep.
don't know, man. That's where I think like these, like I said, these communication tools. And you had an interesting encounter with an engineering firm recently. That you were doing, I think, a BIM 360 demo or
Yep.
PlanGrid or something like that.
Well, actually, it started with Bluebeam and then went into BIM 360. And honestly, both methods work. Like if you think about it, like both methods communicating, like getting people involved in the process to communicate sooner, works both ways. It's just, do you want to use BIM 360 document management, or would you rather use Bluebeam Studio?
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about it is they're both pretty cheap. So you can go one way or the other.
Pick your poison. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So you know, I like the markup capabilities. I'm not picking one over the other. I like the markup capabilities of Bluebeam as opposed to BIM 360.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I like BIM 360's um, uh,
Issues and
issues
the
and comparison tools and
checklist and the
oh my. Well,
coordination.
the check.
Is,
I mean, those are different modules. If we're just talking
well,
about
okay, yeah,
document
but I'm
management,
I'm saying like in general, like with the full functionality of it, if you can push it all the way out and
oh
you
yeah,
can
as a
utilize it
complete
all
system,
to that sense.
it makes more sense.
Yes.
I'm just thinking
Yeah.
about docs in general though, like docs in general versus Bluebeam. Bluebeam has a great
I mean, it's awesome. It really is.
their markup tools are unrivaled. The fact that
Mhm.
we can invite 500 people to a studio session that
Yep.
off of I'm the only person with a paid license, but I can invite 499 other people to it without licenses.
Yep.
That's pretty damn good.
I mean, all
But
of their integrations, the API integrations that they have, projects and sessions are awesome. They really are. And then when you start looking into drawings, now they're pushing out into mobile. Just sharing the drawings through a mobile platform. That's great. And the data that you can track actually, and the metadata that you can take, even from not just comments, but the design, the PDF itself. I think 2D and 3D PDFs. When they brought out 3D PDFs, I was like, man, this is awesome. And then you jump into BIM 360 and you're like, oh, I have a full model viewer and I can push on everything and kind of compare this difference. See, with Bluebeam, I love the compare and overlay tools. Fantastic, right? They're very cool. But you jump into BIM 360 and you jump into a model comparison, and you're actually looking at the square footages that change because you made this change, or the
yeah,
amount of brick that you have on this face changes because you changed the window, right? And it starts like kind of really I want to say rationalizing, but kind of it sets all those factors kind of right in front of you, and you're like,
well,
oh,
it's
okay,
easier
cool,
to
all right.
conceptualize than just sliding a bar back and
Mhm.
forth and saying, okay, we're overlaying,
Yep.
the different changes or color coded changes. It's literally telling you this is changed by this many, square feet, or the volume's changed, or whatever it is. It's telling you what's changed by how much. So it's like, oh, actually, man, this might be a costly effect. And if you tie it into
Yes.
like what
Yep.
JE Dunn's doing with their lens estimation platform, so whenever I don't know if you're familiar with JE Dunn's tool, but whenever they upload a new model through the large model viewer with BIM 360, it automatically ties back to their estimation database and it breaks it
Yeah.
apart. And it's all based off that large model viewer. So we're talking about compare tools. It's
Yep.
kind of the same thought. Well, I know that this amount of square footage has changed as far as brick, blah, 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 blah. And it's just, running through the calculations saying it's actually this change is going to cost you X amount of money. it's pretty remarkable when you think about these sort of things.
Yeah, dude.
The you know the not shitting on Bluebeam. I think Bluebeam is a phenomenal product. This isn't a them versus BIM 360. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah, no, no.
picking features I like from each.
Yeah.
So Bluebeam, I really like. Again, really like the markup tools. BIM 360, I really like version compare. I like issues. I like being able to place issues on a 3D model. Like
Oh
if
yeah.
I open it up, zoom in, boom, this does not belong here.
Yep.
Hey Dave, fix this. You have till tomorrow. I've got to get new drawing set out. Boom, you upload and we're ready to go. When you
Yep.
get the email, you make the change, you upload, ready to go. And I know the stuff that's coming from Autodesk too. And I'll say it. We've got issues in Navisworks. It only makes sense, knock on wood here, that you'll get issues in Revit soon without giving
Yeah.
much away. It's just being able to open the design application and say, oh,
Where is
on this
this
project, I
clash?
got
Where
all
is
these
this issue?
issues. Yeah. It's like, oh, got all these issues in this model. Let's address them in the design application now,
Yep.
and then re-upload to BIM 360,
Yep.
knowing all those issues are resolved.
I mean,
I mean,
that's a
that's phenomenal.
huge key portion of design review in general. I when I was working in production, I would get the architect's red line set right in front of me, and I'd be kind of going through, and I'd have a green highlighter, and I would kind of go through my drawing and try to green highlight everything on the check set that I needed to correct in the model, and hoping that I didn't miss anything, and hoping they didn't miss anything, and then you're kind of going back and forth from that point. If you think about getting involved here and just I guess seeing how things kind of change earlier in the process and connecting that all together, it just makes so much more sense.
I think I think the evolution of these platforms, and there are lots of them, Revitzo and
Yep.
Revisto. I always say that wrong, man. I want to say
Revitzo.
Revitzo, but
Revitzo, I think it is,
it's
right?
Revisto. I think the Z is before the
Visto.
T.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I always butcher this, man.
Yeah, I'm bad with
uh,
names too.
yeah, it's all right. It's software. Oh man.
But no,
Uh,
dude, I think, with issues and everything that we can create, and if you can connect the, let's say, Navisworks or Revit, like connecting that design review process off of a piece of paper and taking that into the model itself, right? I mean, right now we usually do a search by element ID, and I can find the element ID off of clash detection or off of, let's say, BIM 360 coordinate. I can find that element ID, search for it, and change it in Revit, but that's a document. That's something else that I'm going back and forth and trying to navigate through. And I mean, it is what it is. And most of the time you're going to catch most of them or all of them, but it takes you a lot more time. If you can actually take out that middleman, right? Because that's really I think that what we kind of obsess with that is eliminating that middle ground. Why can't we just go from point A to point B? Why do I need an ABC? Why can't I just go here to here? And really, I guess I should have said A to C in that sense instead of A, B, C. But anyways, you get what I'm saying. So why can't we just go from here to here? So if we can actually take those issues straight from coordination into that design portion, it only makes sense. You can navigate through that and adjust that design accordingly.
have you installed issues for Navisworks yet?
No, dude, I haven't done that yet, unfortunately.
You got to get on it, man. So I was chatting with Zach Kramal. Kramal. I always butcher his last name. Kramal. Anyways,
Zach,
man.
Zach.
Yeah.
Zach from Autodesk.
The layout guy, man. No,
The layout guy.
Layout guy. No, he is
The cool dude we drink with at AU.
Yes. The one thing I miss most about outside of friends, obviously, but the thing I miss most about Portland outside of friends is the contacts I had at Autodesk. So for those of you guys that don't know, Autodesk has a lot of, I'll say key, but I'm going to say key staff on the construction side outside of Portland at Portland, and it's a funny instance because Portland used to be before they built that Portland office, they were in Lake Oswego, which is about 30 minutes south. In Lake Oswego, that whole office was founded as the Inventor team. So Inventor was a Portland-based acquisition. Autodesk set up shop there, and they just kind of retained that staff. Well, as they moved to downtown, I've just noticed they've just like hired more phenomenal people, like Josh Cheney, Zach Ramal relocated from Denver. Then you've got damn it, what's his name? Esteban Corrales. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people out of that Portland office that are just phenomenal. They just know their stuff. Really great people. Zach and Josh were always a pleasure. We'd go down to Wayfinder. We take construction professionals or people that we'd were hanging out with at the time, and we'd all go down to Wayfinder and eat some sandwiches or some food and drink some delicious beer. But I do miss that quite a bit, because here in Pittsburgh, I haven't really connected with many of the Autodesk staff. They actually closed their office here. There are quite a number of people that are still located here out of Pittsburgh, and I believe they were on the recap team. But I don't know them that well. So it's I don't know, man. Gotta start over with Autodesk.
Yep, that's all right.
Yeah. It's I got my connections in the hub. I got my connections in New York and Boston and San Fran and Portland. But come on, Pittsburgh people, reach out to me. I'm lonely. Oh man. Yeah, I've had a lot of great connections with a lot of large, BIM people here. There's a big brewing scene here, especially amongst BIM people, which is awesome. I'd love to get these people on the podcast at some point in time. It's just we need a little bit more of an Autodesk presence here. That's all.
Yeah. Building it. We're building it.
Building it, damn it.
Building it.
Dude, I don't know if I've told you I seem to have a knack, an unintended knack for finding like hot spots for like construction, unbeknownst to me, right?
Yeah.
So moved from I've lived in Tennessee and Iowa and Massachusetts, and then we ended up in Texas. I don't know, a few years before the recession, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then, construction is still booming. We don't feel the recession. And then we moved to Portland, and oh my gosh, man, in like 4 years in Portland, my house went up. It doubled in price, or 50% in price. It went up 50% in price.
Wow.
In 4 years. Insane amount of money. That's insane. Now that I live in Pittsburgh, the projects that are going on here are insane. The robotics investment here from all the big tech companies is insane. We've got Apple, we've got Google, we've got Uber, we've got self-driving cars, robots that do all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's all based around Carnegie Mellon here. But the projects that are going on, there's probably I think 3 multi-billion-dollar projects going on right now in Pittsburgh, in the Pittsburgh metro. It's pretty damn significant.
Yeah, dude.
Multi-billion-dollar.
That's insane. In the Pittsburgh metro.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, man. Pretty cool stuff.
On the come up.
On the come up. This is my last paper, I promise.
I love it.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, we don't have sound effects. I'll be the sound effects guy. How about that?
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Do a little beatbox for you guy. Why didn't you try? Sorry.
That's awesome.
Did you have any more thoughts on the training aspect and the communication? I know we keep saying Bluebeam, BIM 360, solve it. That's your problem. But what about I want to pose a scenario. What about an external firm? So most of the stuff we were talking about was mostly internal issues. Mm-hmm. What about external? They're using Pinnacle or some, not not Singular, not Pinnacle, just somebody like them that's a drafting service,
Hmm.
modeling service, provides model to the field teams. The field teams, what do they do then, right? So they use this model of coordination because they were obligated to do 3D BIM, um, uh, but they don't have drafters in house. So, I mean, what would you say to those guys then? Do they have to go back to the third party modelers and have it redrawn, or I mean, what's your
At that
thoughts on this?
point, I mean, well, you're right there. At that point, you're already in the process and you're going with it. But I think at that point it has to be lesson learned, and you need to understand what. Well, not you need to understand, but
Take
at that
it
point
to
it's
move
lessons
on.
learned. And yeah, no, well, I mean, it kind of is, but it isn't. It's you take your bumps and then you kind of learn moving forward. Like, hey, let's develop a good bit execution plan, or hey, let's develop a good idea of what we need in our contract to be constructible, and understand that
Well, a
if this
lot of these,
company is not developed in that way. Well, I was just going to say, and if that firm is not developed in that way to know what our constructability requirements are, then we stop them sooner in the process, and we get involved sooner in the process, and that's understood for this job, like at that point in the timeline, right? So that the bid is adjusted, everything is adjusted based off of that. If that's not understood going into it, then you're setting yourself up, I don't want to say for failure, but I mean, it's a little bit of failure. It's a
for a
little bit of
headache
regret. You got a
at the
bad,
very least,
you got a bad taste in your mouth, man, and it's a bad project. You don't want to do that again. So the sooner that you can get these kind of contractual ideas, kind of these timelines, these phases, you want to say, of an idea of where you want them to stop, because at that point, this is no longer going to benefit you. You know what I mean? This design, let's get it here to this LOD or whatever it is, to this phase. And at that point, there's a handoff, because we're going to lose more time and money if you keep going with it.
Yeah, I mean that's a perfect point. I've run into a lot of firms that'll bid a BIM project, they'll outsource the BIM. I know a few GCs that'll outsource the concrete model, and for $5,000 or whatever it is, they'll end up with a pretty complete model. The issue is that model constructible? Like, can I do anything with this? Is there a back and forth that needs to happen? Does that add to my cost? It's
Yep.
definitely going to add to my damn schedule.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into it when you start to think about pour schedules and
Hmm.
constructability and all that sort of stuff. I really probably can't do what I need to do based off of this outsourced model because I didn't have the communication. They don't know our codes here. Maybe
Yep.
they're in Massachusetts or Philippines or India or wherever they're at. I'm in
Yeah, their design
Portland,
requirements
Oregon
are
or whatever,
different.
right? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
different, right?
it's
International
different.
building code is international building code, but there are local regulations that still need to be followed. And that said, maybe we're not set up to execute in this way. We still need to do it this way,
Yep.
and that's something I've seen quite a bit. I'm not involved in those conversations with like, well, what do you do on the next project, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
by then
I
they're
mean,
like, we're gonna stop bidding BIM.
yeah, right. That. Nope. Hey, wait, guys. Let's. It's after. I call it I wanted to call it an AAR, but it's not an after action review. It's like an after
AARP.
pro after project review. We're gonna call it like an APR. We're talking about your house mortgage. No, but like an annual, like, or after project review, right? See what could have went better, what went wrong,
Yeah, yeah.
and how to approach the next project that we do. But building off of that and saying, okay, with this BIM stuff, we need this amount of information. We need this BIM stuff to go to this level of detail in order for us to continue where we need to go. And unfortunately, it's a learning curve. There's a learning phase that comes out of it, because you got to learn about it in order to adjust to it. We adapt, we overcome, right? We're constantly adapting, we're constantly growing and seeing what we can change and what we can adjust. And I think especially when you're working with these third-party firms that don't understand. And I mean, it's not to say bad against anybody or anything for going to a third-party firm. No, I'm not saying that
You
at
did a
all.
project. You were doing what was
Exactly.
right. I have
It,
no qualms or quarrel with anybody that does it.
exactly.
I think in a lot of instances, it actually works out to their advantage. I just think that if you get a bad taste in your mouth because of it, it's not the BIM that got you a bad taste in it. It's the lack of understanding,
Exactly.
the
Or the
lack of
communication.
communication. Yeah, that's exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's that
jinx you.
communication. It's got to happen, and I mean, and at some point, it's learning. It's all learning and adapting, as I said there, to what you need and what would make things easier, right? We constantly want to work smarter, not harder. Well, in that sense, you might have to play stupid a couple times, or I mean, be stupid a couple times in order to learn this information to become smarter. And it is what it is, but talk to others, communicate as much as you can on what your expectations are, set those expectations as early as you can,
That,
and try to kind of compromise.
that's probably a good point, is set expectations, because I promise you, if you've got a 3-story building, I can bust out your concrete model for $5,000. You're not going to be happy with it, but I can do it still.
I can do it.
But I can do it. I promise you, man. Oh, I'm sorry. You wanted rebar
You wanted
placement?
rebar in that? You wanted those couplers joined together? What are you talking
Mm.
about? You wanted me to tie those?
Embeds? Sorry, I didn't realize you wanted any of this stuff.
What?
You said a concrete model. I drew a bunch of blocks. Sorry, man.
It
With
says
concrete
concrete on it. Yes, the material is concrete.
footing.
Check mark.
Oh, you wanted me to check local building code to make sure they were set to the accurate depth? Sorry, guys.
Oh, is this bearing or retaining? I don't know.
Yeah. Womp womp.
Works.
Yep. Well, hey, man. Not to jump topics, but I came to you with a problem earlier this week. We were talking about IFC models.
Oh yeah, dude. Yep.
We were talking about layouts. We were talking about a lot of fun stuff in this regard, right? And I know layout with IFC is kind of a pain in the butt, man. But I found the workflow, dude. It's pretty amazing, and then it gets more amazing as you look at BIM 360. By the way, I don't know if you've done this yet.
I haven't watched the video that he sent over. I really wanted to watch it. I just
No,
haven't had
don't.
yet.
That video has nothing to do with BIM 360. That's a TopCon Magnet. And that's about working with IFC files and Magnet, which is a cool
Okay.
process.
Well, I thought it was exporting IFC files from Revit so you could get them to recognize the families to do layout for.
No, so you and I had this great idea for doing the layout through Revit by bringing in the IFC and then mapping.
Yeah, that's right. Mapping the IFC categories.
Mapping the IFC categories to Revit and then figuring it out. That is so freaking tedious, and it is a pain in the butt. Unless you are working with a template that is set to your Tekla or whatever you're using,
yep.
For that you're bringing the IFC from.
Mapping the actual
Revit.
IFC
Oh
to
my
what
gosh.
the categories are, so they match your Revit categories.
It's and then I don't even know if I can select and place an instance family on them. I don't know how that. Like I just gave up. I was like I am not going to do this.
It's too much. Yeah.
It's too much. But after playing with the workflow a little bit, I found two things, right? So one is we can export, I specifically had people that I worked with that export the DWG out of the IFC. So they'll open it in CAD, export a DWG. The issue is we're not laying out in 3D when we export a DWG.
Yeah.
The IFC, when you export an IFC, for whatever reason, it loses elevation on each individual element. So even though I open up in CAD and I see, this column is 12 feet above, above the base, right?
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, whenever I bring that into any file, data collectors, whatever, it doesn't recognize that elevation. It's not correlated based off of the known elevation is not correlated throughout. It's whatever reason. I don't know why. I don't know why it does this, but it specifically happens with IFC files. So then I'm only laying out in 2D. If I want to lay out in 3D, then I have to bring in that IFC file, and then I can lay out in 3D using the IFC file, or I can switch back to 2D and use the DWG.
Yeah,
but what I found
an issue with it recognizing like the edges and stuff in the IFC to do the layout.
It is, but that's program specific, and I actually found a workflow for that actually works out pretty well.
Okay.
The thing I found out that works even more amazing is BIM 360. So if I actually open this in Navisworks, and I've done a lot of stuff, a lot of layout stuff in Navisworks, opening inventor files and coordinated models and all that sort of stuff,
Mhm.
where I'm doing my layout based off of that. But I've never really played with the IFC functionality. So if I
Yep.
just create my selection sets, I can actually place my APL points pretty dang freaking easily. So, if it's Tekla, select by Tekla element or category, um, whatever it is, and it automatically groups those together. And I can say place on
Nice.
geometry, place on all the corners, all that sort of stuff. Or if it's pipe, place on,
Mhm.
top center, whatever I'm trying to do. And it'll place those points. But if I go to BIM 360 and I do, BIM, next in BIM 360, the current
Yeah.
version of 360, I open up, I got it on my phone. I'm connecting my total station. I do um, import APL points.
Yep.
It converts all those APL points to issues because that's the way this
Yep.
version of BIM
Yep.
360 works. Then I can actually create new points on any corner, line, whatever I
Yeah.
want. It'll automatically allow me to just touch and place a point very
Oh, dude, I
easily.
didn't even think about that. I knew you could lay out points with the new version of
Oh, it's
layout, but
so
I didn't
much
even
easier,
think
man.
about that. That's funny.
Dude, made my life so much easier. Yeah, yeah. So I'm very happy about that workflow. And I know this is off topic, but I was pretty excited
Nah,
about it.
dude, that's awesome. I mean, it's another BIM workflow we can talk about and, hashtag sharing knowledge.
That's what it's about, man.
That's
That's
what
what it's
it's
about,
about, man.
dude.
Exactly.
I've had a lot of good little knowledge tips and wins that have come out of this past week or week and a half since we last chatted. That I'm really excited about, man. I think not only Autodesk is making great changes, our employer is making great changes,
Yep.
there's a great benefit to the industry that's happening. I think I chatted with you earlier about this new premium plan that Autodesk is rolling out. Dude, I work with so many companies that have offices in other countries.
Yeah.
It's crazy,
Yeah.
but
That's going to be pretty awesome.
now they can all buy through one office.
One. Yep.
Yeah, through the premium
Makes
plan.
so much more sense, honestly.
Makes life easier, man. Love it.
Well, it makes the license management a lot easier when you're assigning, when you're trying to figure things out, if you're going for tech support, what have you. It just makes things a lot, I want to say, simpler in terms of, hey, it's just a one-stop shop.
I've chatted with two companies today that had offices, and one had offices in 5 countries, one had offices in 3 countries. One IT guy is managing licenses at each one of those firms for multiple countries.
That'd be insane, dude.
That's a pain in the butt. So pretty excited about that.
Yep.
I don't know what else is changing. What else is new that's worth bringing up this week's on this week's episode.
I'm not even sure. Not even sure what else. I mean, we've already Revit 2021's old news at this point.
That was a well listened to podcast episode, by the way, man. I'll have to
Really?
send you the metrics on it. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
phenomenal, man.
All right.
Revit
Heck yeah.
29 episode, and our website. I think our website got like 180 views just based off of that, our post on Revit 2021.
Really? All
Yeah, our
right.
little know nothing podcast website, man.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Hey, so while I'm thinking about it, I want a Brewing with BIM hat. I'm wearing a Tito's today, but I want a Brewing with BIM hat.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, man. I want some brewing. We it's been almost a year, and I know it's been almost a year because I got the renewal bill
Did you get the bill?
for our website.
Yeah.
Um, so with on our website, I kind of like singled it out and said, oh, and we've got great ideas for swag or whatever. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me. Statistics and all. No,
Statistics and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that should be a shirt. Statistics and stuff.
Don't quote me on statistics.
Don't quote me on statistics and stuff. But I was thinking about it, I was like, man, we really need to get up on this bandwagon. Like we've had some great ideas for some swag, man. Whether it's a koozie, a beer bottle opener, a hat, a T-shirt. I had this idea for hot sauce, construction grade hot sauce
Yeah.
For those of you guys that don't know, I am a famous chef. Not really, but uh, uh,
But
I've
you are though.
actually
You do have a picture with Alyssa Milano,
I
so.
do. I've cooked for Alyssa Milano, George W. Bush, Rick Perry,
Ooh, buddy, you're like a
Vicente
certified celebrity.
Fox. Yeah, man. Former president of Mexico. Nothing. But I've cooked great meals for these guys. I've actually made several iterations of hot sauce. I'm not from Texas, but I did spend most of my life in Texas, and I've brewed many hot sauce. I brewed my own srirachas. I fermented my peppers. Like I get down on this stuff, and I think
Yeah.
making a construction grade hot sauce is the key. I think something that is very potent but
Dude, I'm
delicious.
down.
I
I'm
think
down.
we should bottle
I
some
think a
stuff, man.
blueberry habanero is what I'm feeling. Blueberry
Blueberry
habanero.
habanero. I'd go for that, man. That sounds pretty
I'd
good.
go for that. I'd go for that. Right meow.
Right meow.
Right meow.
Yeah. Super
Super
Troopers,
Troopers
man.
on the brain. Yeah. Yep.
Did you watch part two?
Yes. Oh, yes. I definitely watched
Not
part
as
two.
good, but still great.
No, but still great. Yep.
It's still
Yep.
great.
Although I'm still waiting for the second beer fest pot. What is it? Weed fest?
Does that come in? I don't know.
So I don't. I've never seen anything from it. But if they could do a second beer fest, that would be amazing. Or
Beer
a weed
league.
fest,
Beer
a
league.
a beer league. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think it's beer league. Das Boot.
Das Boot.
Beer league. I
If
think
they
it's
could
beer
do a
league.
nah, dude. I think it's beer fest. I think it is.
Is beer league
Oh,
a different movie?
oh man, what is
Come
it?
on, Google. Don't fail me now.
Oh, Google. Yeah.
Oh, beer league is a different movie.
It
Beer
is. Yeah,
Fest. Yeah.
Beer Fest. And then they did a thing right at the end of the movie for I
Artie
think it was
Lang,
like
damn.
Pot Fest. Yeah, Pot Fest. And it never came. Beer Fest Part 2. And it was Willie Nelson showed up and it was a super secret pot smoking competition. And I was like, all right, any movie with Willie Nelson and smoking weed, I am down. Let's go. This is gonna be amazing.
Damn hippie, man. I actually miss that genre of like stupid movies, the Broken Lizard, the
Oh,
the
yeah, dude.
dodgeball, the
Oh,
Dodgeball,
Dodgeball, I love
sterile,
it.
and I like the
Praise
taste.
Lord.
Oh.
Drink my urine.
I miss those that genre of movie, man.
Gosh, yeah,
It's
dude.
not something I'd watch all the time. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a big fan of epics. Like right now, I'm doing Gladiator is probably like my top favorite movie of
I
all
love
time.
Gladiator. That's my
That
favorite.
is Russell Crowe as his
Russell
best.
Crowe, yes. Yep. Oh, dude, Les Mis is on that list too. Because Russell Crowe's in that one as well.
Man, dude can sing, dude. But lately, I've been watching The Last Kingdom. Uhtred.
Oh, yeah, dude. That's a
I
dude from what was that? The motorcycle. Gosh, what was it? Anarchy?
no. Alex Draymond.
What?
Who was in?
What, you said the Last Kingdom?
Yeah, The Last Kingdom. The guy from.
Oh, dude. Okay, I got you from Viking. Is that what it is?
No. The guy from Viking isn't even from that show.
Oh, good lord.
Are you thinking of like Ragnar is
No.
Charlie
no.
Dunham or something like that?
Yeah, it was Charlie Dunham.
Charlie
It was,
Hunman. Yeah.
Charlie Hunman. That's it. Charlie. Yeah, and I can't remember what movie it was. It was
I don't think he was in a Viking movie though.
No, it wasn't a Viking movie. It was actually a medieval movie. What was it? Maybe not, dude. I am all over the frickin' place right now. That's probably not even it.
King Arthur. Yeah, he was in King Arthur.
Yeah, King Arthur. That's probably what that is.
Yeah.
I was thinking there was some movie with the Last Kingdom or something like the fall. I don't know. Whatever.
Well, The Last Kingdom is a show. It's got 4 seasons out on Netflix. I'm on the 4th season right now. I am like addicted to it. I was addicted to Vikings. I never got into like Lord of the Rings. I don't do like the mystical, anything like that. But anything that is like so-called historical, I do a lot of air quotes when I'm drinking. So-called historical. I'm a big fan of. But like Vikings was great. Ragnar, man, freaking fantastic. But Alexander Dreamin, the whole like cast that does this movie, like this TV series, it's phenomenal. The guy that played King Alfred, these are actually real characters. If you Google them, like King Alfred, Alfred the Great, phenomenal guy. Tried to reunite England, helped beat the Danes, tried to lead all the Saxons. Like these are historical people. It's based actually on a book by somebody, but I think it's called the Saxon Chronicles. But it's all the people that are in it are real historical figures. Maybe the timelines don't mix, and maybe there's some dramatic stuff to it, but it's still interesting to see because I find myself like randomly Googling people like Canute of the Vikings. I'm like, oh, is this guy a real person? It's like, oh yeah, he was. He actually helped. Like it all fits. It's pretty interesting, man. But if you haven't watched The Last Kingdom on Netflix, man, you're really missing out.
I'll have
Dude,
to check it out.
It is addicting. I think I started about a week and a half ago. I'm on season 4. They're all 50-minute episodes. So the first, I think, 3 seasons are only 8 episodes long. Or no, the first 2 seasons are 8 episodes long, and the second 2 seasons are 10 episodes long. So I've got quite the amount of time invested. For all of you people, I still will never watch Game of Thrones, damn you.
Dude, I love Game of Thrones.
Never gonna happen.
I still love Game of Thrones. Dude, so it's funny, but I brought the bottle down here with me. Joey, you and I have talked about this. My grandpa is an avid Scotch drinker. He loves Scotch, and he's kind of in the last stages of life, and we've talked about what he would want for his wake or celebration of life. And he actually wants me to let's give a toast and drink, a shot of scotch with everybody there. And I love Game of Thrones. I'm sitting in the liquor store the other day here in Walkerton, and I'm looking, and I see a bottle of scotch with the Lannister house on it, and I'm like, I feel like that is not a good bottle of scotch for me to buy. But which Lannister are we talking about? Like, which Lannister are we getting here? But I decided not to go with that one, and decided to go with the Macallan edition number 5. So this is a very limited edition scotch, and I'm very excited to. Well, not excited. That sounds horrible. I mean, I'm excited to try it, right? But not at the same time.
Yeah, because it's the circumstances at which you'll be drinking. I'm just saying, man, for the amount of money you spent on that bottle, you should like pour that into a decanter, and then pour like some Glenlivet Founders $40 bottle of scotch in there, and then give that to everybody, and you can enjoy.
And I'm just sitting there one shot. I give some to Grandpa.
Why is yours more cherry than mine?
I like that idea, though. That's.
Oh, are they Scotch drinkers? You're not gonna know. Who cares?
Yeah, right. There's gonna be that one person out there like, what is this shit? Who does this?
Yeah.
Did you replace this with Glenlivet?
Glenlivet. Oh, the Budweiser of Scotches. Literally, that's. I mean, honestly, that's how I associate it. I was never a Scotch person growing up. Again, I grew up in Texas. It was always hot. I grew up in a college town. I drank whatever was cheap. I mean, I'm king of the dirty 30s. I used to, kick ass on some Keystone Light. It finished that stuff off in a day. Beer pong, man, baby, man. Miller Lite and Keystone
Light, dude. I went to one party where they tried to do Budweiser for beer pong. The worst thing ever. That's like, oh, why?
We've run out of beer pong and used whiskey before. It is not a good idea.
Yeah, I did that once with vodka. We called it vodka pong.
Yep, yeah, I forgot to say, we've done this with Everclear, and I don't think we finished a full game. I think throwing up, early.
No. Yeah.
I quit. Done.
I can't do anything with Everclear now, dude.
Soaking the watermelon. That's the only thing you can do.
Make some jungle juice.
Jungle juice, man.
Just pour it in a giant tub.
Garbage can punch.
Fruit in there. Yeah.
That's it, man. Trash can punch. That's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oof. College memories there. Pre-college memories. High school
Yep.
memories. Uh,
Memories for me. All the adults would come around and start freaking mixing shit, and you're like, "What is this?"
Mommy, this tastes like Kool-Aid.
It's not Kool-Aid.
Ooh, Jello. That's not Jello.
That's not Jello.
My wife, bless her heart, in the early days of us dating, I made some Everclear Jello shots, and I made them super sweet to kind of counteract the Everclear taste, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, I can't even taste the alcohol. There's like no alcohol in this. She had like 22 Jello shots that night, man. I swear, like the next 2 days was just whoa,
Yeah, dude. Yep.
rough.
Yep.
You've seen my wife. She's like 110 pounds soaking wet, man.
Soaking
She's
wet. Yeah.
4'11". She is tiny, uh, and she's pregnant right now. And I'm like, you're still like 110 pounds. She's lost 7 pounds being pregnant. I'm like, what the hell?
Sweetest person ever, though. She's the sweetest person
awesome.
ever.
I love her.
Yeah,
but,
she is.
of course, I love her. But
Right.
I have to say that no.
We are being recorded right now.
Oh, damn it. But yeah, so early on in dating, she drank all these shots. But the next day, she still managed to get up, and we had like this group of people coming over, and we were doing a Thanksgiving feast for like 20 of our friends. Just a fun like get together, more drinking that night. She still managed to wake up, and even though she was a wreck, she cooked everything, and it was fun. It was fun times.
Nice. Heck yeah.
And right then, I was like, "Damn it, I'm gonna marry this woman."
Marry this woman. Oh yeah.
Put a ring on.
Yep.
No,
I knew that moment when it was funny. I had a moment like that with Adrian. Me and my buddies we've been drinking like half the day already, and when she got off work and she showed up over at my buddy's house, she's looking at us and she's like, "What? You know what? I want to get to where you guys are." Takes a glass and takes a bottle of like grape flavored vodka and just pours it in the glass and just starts drinking. And I'm like looking at her and I'm like, "Wow. Okay. We'll see where this goes." That night was horrible. She was not. That night was not good. The night was not good. It was involved. It involves some hair holding and praying to the porcelain god. And,
oh yeah, my wife was all over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But she totally recovered like a champ. And I was like, you are the one. That's it.
That was a fun night for me, man. Like I had a roommate at the time. We rented this house together, and one of my wife's friends had come over, and there was a lot of truth or dare.
Truth or dare, yeah. Deer, truth or deer. Okay.
I say beer, like bear, like drinking a bear.
There's a lot of truth in some beer. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. No, truth or dare. I can't. Anyways, there was a lot of that night, and I do remember my roommate running around the block naked, which was hilarious during the daylight, because in Texas it stays sun forever, man.
Yeah.
I swear it's 2 a.m. and the sun's still out. Damn it, it's so hot.
The things alcohol will make us do.
Oh man, I love it, dude. And of course, I don't have that type of. I mean, I'm a father. You're a father. We don't have that.
Dude, that doesn't happen anymore. Oh no.
This is me letting go. I'm 3 beers in. Yep. This is me letting go, man.
I have 4. I'm down 4. Yeah, and that's it. Yep.
I don't have another one. Damn it. But my wife's family's in upstate New York. It's the whole reason for moving cross country. And I'll get to hang out with them every once in a while. And my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, just married. We went to the Bahamas last year for their wedding. And the guy's, he's my age. He just graduated an MBA. He's a great guy. He's hilarious. He's fun. He likes to, go kayaking, hence why I'm buying a kayak. But like, they're just like, I go over there, man. That's like the only real time I get to get shit-faced, man. Every other time it's like, I'm a father. I'm a husband.
Yep.
Let's act accordingly.
I have to wake up in the morning with these kids early as shit.
Doesn't matter what time these kids go to bed, they'll be up at 7 a.m.
Oh, dude, you're
Does
lucky.
not matter.
My kids will be up at 5 or 6.
Whoa!
Dude, it is nuts. They be in your face at 5 a.m. like, hey, can I have some cereal? Yes, please go get some cereal. Go. Just give me
But
another
Dad,
hour.
it's on the top shelf. Stand on your brother's shoulders.
Do we have a step
just leave me
stool?
alone.
Do you know where the step stool is?
I love it, man.
Pull-ups, dude. Say it with your chest. You want some cereal.
I love it, man. Love it. Well, hey, man, we got off tangent quite a bit. We meant to talk about BIM a lot more, but bottom line boils down to communication.
Oh, it does. Yes. Okay.
It
And
does,
back
yeah.
around.
And back
Yes,
around.
communication is key, I think, for very, very many, anyways. Beer's kicking in.
No, it's fine, man. We said what we wanted to say about communication.
Yeah.
Find a platform, whatever it is, not even just a platform, just a workflow, where you can bring in those educated field staff, non-field
Wow.
staff that are educated, I guess. So I'm trying to say people that don't know what the field staff know. Not saying that the field staff don't know anything. Damn it. No, I'm trying to say people that don't know what the field staff know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was piss poor verbiage, my man. Cut, edit.
Yeah. Let's put that on CNN.
Yeah. Small podcast channel. Being labeled field staff as being ignorant and
gosh.
unknowing. Oh shit, that's not what I said. Damn it.
Damn it.
No, I'm just kidding. No, what I'm saying though is the staff that are not the field staff, not as educated as the field staff, and the ways of constructability. Get a communication cycle going. Get a platform, whatever that is. Just bring them in.
It's as we said earlier, like setting expectations, communicating those expectations, communicating what you can do and cannot do, and what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, kind of in different areas, and learning to work together, making that symbiotic relationship that's going to benefit both parties. Because really, we're all out here to make money. We're all out here to get better. We all want this project to go. We want it to go well and seamlessly. We don't like getting bad reviews. I mean, who does? Who likes change orders? Who likes losing money? Nobody. So we all want to get better. We want to do better. So let's help each other. Let's lift each other up and help, like I said, just communicate these issues and work together as much as we can.
Those are wise words to end on, man. I love it. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. Another episode of Brewing with BIM where we jump on a bunch of tangents. We capture this much about BIM and we drink a lot of beer. So thanks.
Woo-woo.